Whoa.
I told you.
Oh my gosh.
I told you.
Didn't I tell you?
I told you.
Didn't I tell you?
I told you.
I told you so.
I told you so.
I don't know what you're doing right now, but it's very weird to me. And this is going to sound great.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Matt Fiona Show. Thank you so much for joining us. We are incredibly happy that you're here. As always, before we jump into our topic for this week, go share, subscribe. My goodness, today.
You can do this.
It helps us. It helps you. You'll get updated when we post stuff, which we're trying to do more of. But it'll also help get expand the reach, and we can help more people or annoy more people, depending how you look at it. All right.
Help more people.
Yeah, we're going to help people with today's
encourage.
episode. We are not going to annoy anyone.
No, we are here to encourage.
Praise the Lord.
Praise you, Jesus.
All right. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I'm kind of excited to talk about. It's an interesting. It's going to mess with your head just a
little bit. In a good way.
In a good way. In a good way.
In a good way.
All right. This week, we're going to talk about renting Christianity. And you're probably thinking, what the heck is he talking about? How do you rent Christianity? Well, I'm glad you asked. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you. When you own something, right? When you own a car, most people take reasonably good care of their car. Right? You own your car. You're going to make sure it gets an oil change. You're going to fill it up with gas. You're not going to drive it like a maniac.
Right.
Most of you. You're going to wash it occasionally. Mm-hmm. Right? You're going to
pull the garbage out of it.
You're going to look after it.
Yeah, you're going to take care of it.
This is what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
When you rent a car at the airport, you drive it like you stole it. Most people, some people, occasionally.
Yes,
but the care and consideration that you have for your own car is typically not the way you treat the rental car.
Well, we're not thinking about oil change. We're not thinking about when the tires need to be changed. We're not thinking about if we need to get them balanced or if there's an alignment out. We're not.
You hit that pothole, you don't care.
It's okay.
Because you know what? You're dropping it off. It hurts tomorrow.
Right.
When you go and own a home versus rent a home.
Right.
If you're renting in your house, and again, obviously there are exceptions to every rule, but when you rent your house, you are less concerned with really everything because somebody else owns it and they will take care of it.
Right.
It is their responsibility.
Right.
You're going to kind of give up on the majority of things.
You're taking up space.
Because
you're utilizing it. Why it works for you.
Yeah. You rent that house.
Yeah.
Right. The way that you treat your hotel room is typically dramatically different than the way you treat your own house.
Right.
Right. You're staying in your hotel. You're probably not even making your bed at all. You are just going to.
I pull the sheets up.
I know.
Okay.
Most people do not. I've had conversations with.
Yes, I know.
Maintenance staff at hotels.
I believe it.
The way you treat your hotel room is typically not the way you would ever treat your own bedroom or your own bathroom for that matter. Right. There's a different commitment level. There's a different level of taking ownership of something.
Absolutely.
When you own it versus when you rent it.
Yes.
Right. I'll pick on myself for a minute.
Take it away.
The odd time I rent a tool that I don't own.
Right.
I clean it so I don't get the cleaning charge. But if it's got some dings and some scratches, I am indifferent to the fact that it does. Whereas if it's one of my tools,
right?
If one of my guys drops it, we're going to have a conversation about why you dropped a drill off the roof or, off a sill plate or anywhere.
Right.
Right.
How they clean the paintbrushes.
Exactly. All of those things. Whereas, again, when I rent it, because I know they're going to do maintenance on it.
Right.
I know they're going to prepare it. Now, typically, I'm also a little bit anal, so I fill it up with gas. I do all the things.
I was going to say you take pretty good care of stuff.
I'm not really that person, but I'm picking on myself a little bit just so you understand it. We had somebody on our street who we know rents, and they were having some work done.
Right.
So there was, work trucks all over the place and all this stuff. And I watched as a bunch of the neighbors that live around that house were, at the end of the day, getting out their leaf blowers and getting their brooms.
Cleaning up some of the dirt and the excess.
The mess, essentially.
Yep.
That the contractors that were not working in their house had left on the street.
Scattered
because
evidence.
It was a mess.
Yes, it was a big job.
And what I found just very surprising was that the renters of the house, they didn't get out and clean their sidewalk and clean the street off.
Nope.
Now, a couple days later, the gentleman that owns the home showed up.
Right.
And subsequently cleaned up the street and did all those things.
Yep.
Now, is that a ask that's out of line for those renters? I don't know. I don't know their rental agreement. I don't know what's entailed in that.
We're not picking on renters
not at all. Not at all.
By any means.
But there is we're
highlighting differences.
There's a distinct mindset difference between renters and owners.
Yes.
Right? I have a friend of mine, actually a kid who used to work for me, and he's become a landlord.
Right.
And this is his dream, which is awesome.
Yes.
He's got a bunch of tenants. And he's told me the way the tenants treat the house that he painstakingly renovated to be able to rent it out is dramatically different than the way that he takes care of the house.
Yep.
Because, again, they rent.
Well, I mean, I had a client when I was doing real estate, and she was a young girl, and she was trying to get some investment properties she was younger to build them. And I remember her calling me one day, and she's like, so that house you sold me, I had renters in it, and she proceeded to share pictures with me as to how they
They trashed it.
The home. And
Which not every renter trashes.
By
That's
no
not
means.
what we're saying.
By no means. But I saw her and her in the beginning, because she was a young girl, and she was like learning how to paint and just kind of fix it up and make it presentable so that she could make it presentable for somebody. I saw her heart go into it. And I saw her devastated at the other end of it as well.
Yeah.
Because for her, that was still hers. When the renters left, it was in their rearview mirror very quickly.
Yeah. Oh, very much so.
Right?
So the way that this applies to Christianity and your walk with God is essentially really just coming down to the ownership level.
Yeah.
Right? Are you renting that relationship?
Are you using it when it's good for you, and then you kind of get yourself you
discard it as needed?
Yes. Right. You get your feet set, and you've kind of gotten your life in order again. You've gotten the healing you wanted, because we've seen that. You've gotten the healing you wanted. You finally get the job you want. You've kind of got your momentum, and all of a sudden, Jesus is in the rearview mirror because you needed him at that moment that you were down.
Yeah.
But you didn't stick with him.
Well, you rented it.
You rented it for that moment that you needed it.
Yeah, you rented your relationship.
Yeah.
Right? Used it as needed.
Yep. For that moment in time.
Just like a rental car. You needed to go pick something up, a big piece of furniture, so you went out and rented the truck.
Yes.
Right? From Enterprise or Home Depot or whatever.
Right.
And you threw the couch in. You drove it wherever you needed to go. And then when you were done, you took it back and returned it. Because
and you moved on with your life.
You didn't need it anymore.
No.
And, I look at a lot of situations and go, man, they're so close to taking ownership of that relationship.
Right.
They're so close to taking ownership of their walk with God. But they can't get past the fact that I don't know if it's a commitment thing or if it's not understanding or not knowing, but man, it just gets treated as a disposable thing.
That's right.
Right? It's not something that is
Use as needed.
It's just not something that they're taking any ownership of.
Right.
Right. And when I come back to the example of, the sidewalks and stuff, right? Watching some of the neighbors go out and clean their sidewalks, they don't park on the street.
No, by no means.
They don't, honestly, most of them don't even walk on the sidewalk.
Right.
Right?
And technically, that portion, the sidewalk, isn't technically
It's technically not even theirs.
It's not theirs.
No.
It's owned by the city.
Yeah, it's owned by the city.
Right.
Right? But you still saw them because they have pride in their property.
Yes.
Right? They take ownership of their property.
Right.
They want it to look nice. They want it to be presentable. They want it to be safe and clean.
Yep.
So they're out there after hours, after the contractors have all left, and they're cleaning up.
They're putting in the work. They're putting in the time. They're putting in extra effort.
Well, they're going over and above.
And they're going up over and above. And you want to know what this is? It's not something that they knew they were going to have to do. It wasn't general maintenance.
No. Well, that's what I mean. It's over and above.
It is over and above to ensure that what they have, their possession, their home, is well taken care of, looked after, presentable, because they have pride in it. They have, they're taking ownership of it.
So let me get kind of nitpicky for a second and see if I can bother some people.
Okay. See where we go.
Yeah, this will be fun.
Okay.
So take a teenager's relationship with God, right? A lot of times they're renting that relationship, and the landlord or the owner of that relationship is the parents,
Right.
right? They're under the parents' covering, and they take advantage of that,
Right.
as they should, right? And they rely on their parents' faith. They rely on their parents' faith for healing, for finances, for breakthrough, for safety,
Right.
right? But they don't have any relationship themselves.
Right.
So they don't put in any of the work. They just show up and rely on mom and dad's faith,
Yep.
right? There comes a point where they're going to want to move out, right? And grow up and become adults. And if they haven't worked to develop some ownership,
Yep.
Almost a rent to own situation.
Yep.
All I can see is the commercials from the 80s.
Oh, jeez.
But you can get this couch for $19 a month. REC, I think. Or AC, maybe.
I don't
Something
know.
like that.
You digress.
Weird rabbit hole. That's only applicable to people in southwestern Ontario. But actually, probably Metro Detroit. I'm guessing it was a Metro Detroit commercial.
Okay.
Anyways, I digress.
I believe you. Keep going.
I'm working on it.
Okay.
But when they want to move forward, move on, grow up, become adults, they realize that they have not, because they've rented for so long,
Right.
they don't know how to run the lawnmower, right? They don't have any tools to sweep the road or the
Yes.
sidewalk or edge it.
Or
right?
even a trash can to put the garbage out.
Like all of these things they've never had to supply because they've always rented.
Yeah.
They've rented that relationship. So when it comes time where they've got to stand on their own 2 feet, because they've never taken any ownership,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And, I'm picking on teenagers here because it's fun. But I could say this about those Christians that we talked about last week that have never progressed, right? They're
Right.
still
They're
still at
still on
a
step
toddler
one.
level
Right.
of their walk with God. They rely on their pastor for everything,
Right.
right? That type of Christian is the same one who, again, they've rented that relationship for so long that whenever they actually need to step out on their own,
Right.
not only do they not have the knowledge, they don't have the tools to do it.
Right.
So life gets hard, you get a report that you've got to come against, you've got to stand firm in your faith to overcome. And all of a sudden, you don't have any tools because all you've been doing is you've been renting your relationship with God through your parents, through your pastor,
through your friends.
Yeah. You are literally just
through leadership. Yeah.
You're using everybody else as a crutch for your relationship. And it's so easy to get to that point, right? Because your parents, your pastor, your friends, they're good people. They want to help you.
Right.
We, as maybe those stronger Christians, need to do a better job, as we're flipping the script for a moment. We need to do a better job of pushing the birds out of the nest.
Well, and that's where it comes to, we're supposed to build disciples, right? It's one thing to introduce people to Jesus, but we're supposed to take it a step further, and we're supposed to build disciples. We're not just supposed to have converts. We're supposed to build disciples. And when you have an opportunity, when you get past that, you're just introducing somebody to Jesus, but you're building that disciple, and that discipleship, you are creating a Christian who can move from that renter mentality and has that opportunity to take it a step further and take ownership, because it is no longer an introduction, but it's a relationship with Jesus. And so often we talked about this last week, can Jesus count on us? Do we get to the point where we have a strength in us that we know that Jesus has work for us to do? Right? Yep. Hence the tools that we need in order to be able to do it. But Jesus has work for us to do. And it's not until we get to that place of ownership where it's not about what Jesus can give us, but it's about what we can give him and what we can do for him. And, before we lived here, when we first got married for the first year, we rented.
Right.
Our mentality on that, it was just a placeholder. It was, we needed it in that time. I was grateful for it.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, there's nothing wrong. Like, again, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the mentality.
But that's what I was saying. But then all of a sudden, once we bought our home and it was ours, it took on a whole new commitment from us. And here's the thing, even with just relationship, a home is a continual commitment. When we own it, if the windows need to get done, we do it. If the roof needs to get changed, we do it. When our door leaks, we replace it.
Yes, we
do. Anyway, but what we do is we maintain what we own and we take care of it. And we need to do that with us. It cannot just be a one and done. I said a prayer, thank you, Jesus.
Right.
But it is I need to maintain. I need that oil change, right? I need to get in the word, and I need to change things about me so that I can be a better Christian, so that I can be more of what Jesus Christ created me for. But there's a growing process, there's a changing process, and it's not a one and done. But if I need to build my faith in an area, then I need to dive into the word and I need to figure that out. If there comes, and you do a little bit of the work ahead of time, I get it. But if all of a sudden we need a healing or something, well, then we're going to do the work. Because we own our relationship with Jesus and we're going to build our faith, right? So when you own your home and whatnot, you recognize and you look at stuff. Our floors needing fixed at one point. We needed to upgrade the bathroom. We needed a new toilet. We're not just going to let it continue to be an issue. We're going to take ownership and fix it. And again, with ourselves, we need to take ownership when there's things in us that we need to change.
Well, again, that's the difference between owning and renting.
Yes.
Right? When you're renting, if the floor needs to be fixed, You call the landlord.
Right.
You say, hey, floor's a mess. Need you fix it.
Or the toilet's leaking.
There's a problem.
Come and fix it.
You just call somebody. You just abdicate all of that responsibility. Right? And again, we talk about this a lot. This is literally a constant thread through almost every single show we do. You've got to take ownership. You have to take responsibility. You cannot rely on everyone else for your salvation. Right?
Yeah.
You have to rely on your relationship with God.
Absolutely.
For your Christian walk, for your relationship with Him. It comes down to you.
So this, just to kind of summarize this is not a dig on renting or owning. Man, you take care of whatever you have. But what this comes down to, what stemmed this, is renting Christianity. Where is your commitment level when it comes to Jesus? Do you have ownership in your life for Jesus? And the way that you take care of something when you rent it versus when you own it is a completely different mentality. And we want you to own your relationship with Jesus. We want it to be so deep, personal, that you are so invested in it. Because it is an investment in your life. And having a relationship with Jesus is the greatest investment you will ever make. Because, eternity relies on it.
So take some ownership.
Take ownership. Own your Christianity.
I love it. All right, we're going to wrap it there. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, like, share, subscribe.
Yes.
All of those things. Share it with your friends, especially the ones that are renting. All right, we will see you next week on another episode of The Matt and Fiona Show. Thanks for joining.
Bye now.